Welcome. I am Dr. Patrice Berry, licensed clinical psychologist, and here I share legal and entertainment news from a psychological perspective. Today, we are going to hop into a topic that I wasn't sure if I was going to share again, just because this case can be really, really difficult to talk about, to follow. Thank you to everyone that is joining live. Um, good morning, Karen, Phoenix, Laura, formerly Fossil. Good morning, everyone, and to everyone that's watching, and for people that will watch on replay as well. So, in doing some research for this, I found the Connection Instagram page, and this did not age well. So, rid your relationships of transactions, manipulation, and deceptive motives. Rid yourself of control. Uh, okay. And connections to me seem to be all about control and about shifting to the way that Jody wanted you to be and what she agreed and what she said. And it was and to me, there were things that were twisted. Healthy and good concepts were kind of twisted. And that's what often happens in high control groups, in high control religions. Um, that is what can often happen towards the end. So I am going to share this video from and y'all know me and names. So it is Paige Hannah. I'm bad with names, but her video, she was a good friend, I think, to Jody. I think she might have considered Ruby a friend as well. But she's going to talk a little bit about her journey and why she, I think, came out of Connections. Um, but uh, so just to dive into some of the inappropriate teachings or just because the part that I can't get over is the fact that this was a a licensed therapist. I think she called herself a psychologist. I didn't see anywhere where she had a doctorate, and I could because she would definitely call herself Dr. Jody. And maybe in her state, you might be able to operate as a master's level psychologist. I'm not sure. Um, so you'll have to send me the video because I didn't see what recently happened. What what recently happened with Tiffany Henyard. Paige Hannah, thank you. Me and names. Thank you. So going live earlier. Normally the UK folks get to join. I have seen so some people have shared Jody's oldest son, it sounds like he's playing a video game and he's talking about his experience and how he was in therapy with Jody for 5 years and just how it was difficult for him to open up to a new therapist and how he has had to unlearn and undo a lot of the things that he believed and and that he was trained in, and that he was taught, because I think this started with Jody, no, with Ruby and Kevin trying to get help for their oldest son, and uh, uh, and and then I think Jody ended up working with Kevin and their relationship. Kevin ends up out of the home, and then everything goes downhill from there. I still personally feel that while Jody, I think, influenced some of Ruby's thinking, Ruby, I think, already had this, in my opinion, this sadistic, this pain. I don't think she liked the youngest kids. I think she openly talked about not really wanting more children. I think she felt pressure from her religion to continue to have more children, and I don't think she wanted them. And am really concerned about what would have happened if her and Jody's plan to move to that secluded ranch. I don't think these kids would be here if they had moved, if they had done all those things. Because I heard in some of I think it was a conversation between Ruby and Kevin about the kids being in the hospital, and she was minimizing it almost like, "Oh, then it's not that bad." And these kids were extremely just, ugh, ugh. And I won't look at the pictures. Those things can cause secondary trauma. So looking at some of these things can really cause a lot of issues. So the one thing I will say, so in this video, I think this video does a good job putting um just some of the most problematic things that Ruby and Jody kind of did and said together. Unfortunately, they do show some images of the children, but like this is, I'm just going to react to this video and we are going to go from there. So pause it there.
Anger is my favorite emotion. I'm like, I know what I'm dealing with here. What do I need to know? I could use my anger to say, I strongly disapprove of attacking. I strongly disapprove of abuse. I think all of us could get on board with, yeah, I have righteous anger toward adults abusing children. You're going to lose the privilege to eat. You don't need food. My kids.
And like the whole control over food was very, very concerning. And she kind of said the quiet part out loud, like what should I know? Like what therapist? Now there's a difference between me saying that sometimes anger can point to a deeper emotion, or that anger can sometimes let me identify, okay, my child did this and I'm feeling disrespected, but it's for me to manage that and to channel it in a healthy way. I should in no way take out that emotion on my child. And the whole like eating is is a necessity, and I just, the control that they did, it is just beyond concerning. I Ruby's journal almost broke me, like listening to Natalie Lawyer Chick. I went on her channel and she just read some parts of Ruby's journal. And that was the part that just, I was convinced that no, I don't think Jody could have had that kind of control to completely turn Ruby to like think that way. Like I think that was already there. Those are just my thoughts. I do think that Jody's teaching and her agreeing that there was evil in the kids or whatever, and that they needed to punish that out, I think that just sent them on this horrific journey. It's just ridiculous.
Kids are literally starving. Not under any circumstance go into the kitchen. Hopefully nobody gives her food. When I see what's going on with children being exploited and being used as
and it's so interesting for her to talk about children being exploited when they had a family channel. Like one of the reasons why you will not see my child anywhere on my social media is because like, so he's adorable and he could probably make I don't know, like people would probably like to see him, to see his face, but I don't want to use him. Like this is about my education and this is about what I'm doing. He's not old enough to understand what being on social media does for him. And there are documentaries about what's happened in like controlled entertainment, controlled TV shows, and children were still exploited. Children were still made to act suggestively, and there were still things that happened. I think similar things are happening, and these are just my personal thoughts. I think similar things can happen if parents aren't being mindful of like a child channel, of when the content is about the family and the children. I watched a video on my YouTube recently where a parent was upset. Like they had a young child that was trying to be like they just wanted a hug from the parent, and the parent was pretty much ignoring the child because they were trying to finish the video. Like they're like, "Oh, and every parent there's going to be a time when like so like when I'm live, my son might all of a sudden want a hug or something. And if y'all go way back, I don't know which video it was, but there is one video where my son came in and he was like, "I need a hug." And I was like, "Okay, hold on, chat real quick." And I went off camera. I gave him a hug real quick because I don't want him to think that YouTube is more important than him or any of those things. But the fact that she's talking about people exploiting children, I just think that's ridiculous.
Tools as pawns in a political arena, I get angry. And I want to move into action if I'm in danger. I want to go into protective mode. I want to be able to see danger and then take responsibility for myself. Right. Well, the pattern that I've seen, Jodi, is just that those people who have not given themselves permission to be angry, people who have not developed the skill of anger inside truth.
And hold that thought, right? And those of you, because I used to be one of these people who have been abused, who have been taught to not access your anger, because that's another category.
Sure.
And that's one of the places where she's saying something that, because I work with a lot of people that engage in people pleasing and they distance themselves from their anger, but we would never take out that anger on somebody else. We would never have that anger fuel harm to somebody else. And the fact that they're not seeing like what they're doing and how harmful this is. So the licensed therapist is Jody on the left. So hopefully my screen isn't backwards. Jody should be, so Ruby is in the white. Ruby is the mom influencer. Like she had the channel. They were both found guilty of child harm. And the fact that they used humiliation and gaslighting and all of those things, the fact that they used all of those things regularly, that is just so ugh. I think I saw his video where he so I think Jody wants to be the center. I think Jody wants to be the one that is giving this information. I think she might have been a little jealous of like Ruby. Ugh, ugh. Now some of those people watching, the weird thing about child content is there are some people that are watching child content for the wrong reasons. And there are some people that liked that strict parenting. There are some people that think that kids nowadays, that what they really need is like, there are people that I think would agree with the things that Ruby was doing. I, of course, do not. I think the things that Ruby was doing was definitely harmful. Ruby and Kevin, that's a whole, yeah, that's up to
sure,
the
sure. And if there is a truthful cause and you get behind a petition, you get behind gathering people saying, "Hey, here's a cause we need to fight for," that would be a pinpointed right.
So that was a real thing. There were people that would do petitions to try to take the channel down, to try to get CPS to go and investigate this family. And the way that child services worked is that they went and knocked on the door. Nobody answered. And I think at some point, it's my understanding that like it's not that they boarded up the windows, but like they made it so that people couldn't see into the house. And I honestly think that was why they eventually shut down the channel. There is some monetization, so like there isn't as much monetization with child content. I think there are still some ads, but it's not nearly the revenue that's on a channel that's made for adult content. And so well, let's keep going.
Righteous way, truthful way of directing your anger.
Yes.
So I had purchased a new tablecloth and put it on my table because the last tablecloth had glue all over it because they had done, it was a leather tablecloth. Those are really expensive. And my child decided to do an art project and she had permanent glue, hot glue all over the table.
It's like a normal, that's like a normal kid thing. And if you have this expensive tablecloth, like what? So what she's describing is like a normal kid thing. Oh, the amount of so I have all types of art all over my walls. Um so we have like a formal table where my child, he's not supposed to do art projects in the more formal area. And then we have the like casual free fall, like there's nothing too expensive. There's nothing that he can mess up or break or any of that. And that's the other thing with like family vloggers is that the house has to be perfect. And I do think that Ruby had this perfection about herself and her family and her image that I think is rooted in some insecurity and some possible, because we talk about the fact that individuals with narcissistic traits that are on that spectrum, that they often have this lack of a sense of self. They actually are not as confident. They're actually not as they actually have very low self-esteem, if any self-esteem at all, and they're just puffing themselves up, and that's coming from a place of pain and all
The
kinds of
tablecloth. And I talked to her about it. You can't do school projects here on the table anymore. I'm going to buy a new tablecloth. So I bought a new tablecloth, put it on, and I gave instructions to be responsible. There's your principle. And do not eat on this tablecloth unless, I'm sorry.
Here's a table and a tablecloth. Do not eat on the table.
I'm sorry. Was that a distortion?
No, you can do that.
Don't eat.
I don't think Jodi knew that she was going to tell this story. Because Jodi's like, that is not, you buy a tablecloth for a table that the kids can't eat on? Like, what in the world? This is outrageous. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Like that does not make any sense. But so she's laughing at her, okay? In my opinion, I think she was laughing at her in that in that moment. Okay, so and I just recently listened to the episode of from, it was an old episode. So I was working out last night and my YouTube was automatically playing videos and Mormon podcast stories. An old one that I hadn't watched yet just started playing. It was a really great episode. A lot of triggers, a lot of stuff, because it was the woman that ended up taking down Warren Jeffs. She wrote a book, and she just talks about her journey and how the work of Brene Brown in Breaking Shame, just how that book was really impactful for her, and that work, and just how healing and resilience doesn't look like, like it can look like crying. It can look at, struggling, like that it's not this, perfect, put together type of situation. We're going to try to keep going.
Eat on the table unless I'm sitting down and we eat as a family together. Okay. So if you want to eat breakfast, you do it over at the kitchen counter where we can just quickly clean it up. Well, I came into the kitchen and I had two children sitting at the kitchen table, eating on the table where the tablecloth was. And as I got closer, I saw that they had been stirring oatmeal with the brown sugar and the cinnamon, and it was all around their bowl. And I immediately was angry, immediately. And here's where a lot of parents in distortion will go, oh, that was wrong. It's just oatmeal. And they'll start minimizing. And they'll say, well, that was just oatmeal. Just, be really kind, be really nice. They didn't understand. They're just little. They'll learn.
All those rationalizations that go into that distortion.
You can't expect them to be perfect.
But listen to what she was angry about.
So I was not, and I checked myself. And here's how you know if you're going into anger in truth. Can you slow down in your mind long enough to understand your feelings and to be really cognizant, be really awake of your thoughts?
I can't. I can't. I just can't. That, so the kids are making their own breakfast And the kids she's talking about are probably like 8 and 9. Like, I think she's probably talking about younger children. Like, I just can't. Yes, and I am aware. So Warren Jeffs is the LDS, and or FLDS, fundamental. I think it's FLDS. Yes, not just the normal LDS. Yes. Um, the fact that So for me, if I had been Ruby's therapist and she's talking to me about getting upset over the kids um eating at the dining room table, and that they're only allowed to eat at the kitchen table, island, whatever, to me that's not an appropriate expectation. Like, what? Why do we have a tablecloth that we can't eat on? Just that doesn't make any sense to me. In the space where we eat as a family. Because then the kids, we could all be sitting together and somebody spills something on that expensive tablecloth. Like, why isn't this just something that we pull out periodically? Why is this something that we're having all the time? Uh, she definitely wanted perfectionism. And even in her journal, the things that she was complaining about and the things that she was considering to be evil, and this, her child being possessed by this evil spirit, it was just normal kid stuff. Like, it wasn't anything that was like outrageous. And that's where I do hope that these kids have really, really good therapists, because they were forced to repeat what they knew she wanted to hear. And there were times that they wouldn't do it, that they knew that what she was saying was outrageous. Or um when the part in her journal where she's like, I'm not going to feed a demon. And it's like, what? I'm only going to feed RF. I'm not going to feed. And it's just like the thought that she has, it is just breaking me. And like, sure, like maybe she should have just done a table runner in the middle. But to me, I don't have anything in my home that would cause me to like want to, like, there's nothing in our home that if my child broke it, or there's nothing that he has access to, that if something happened to it, that I would be like, that I would harm him, if that makes sense. Like, there is nothing, because my child is more important than all of the stuff. The stuff can be replaced. And there are some priceless things. So like my and I don't even have it on today. I sometimes forget to wear my wedding ring. My child, he used to like to play with my wedding ring sometime, and I set a boundary around it. Like, hey, don't, because I don't want him to lose it. I don't and there would be times when he would grab it when he wasn't supposed to, and I would figure it out. And um it was fine. But if he had somehow lost it or something, I would be disappointed, I would be upset. And but there's nothing I would do to like, I wouldn't take that out on my child. It's just the whole thing is very, very problematic. Okay. So I want to make sure. So thank you. So this was sent to me, Hannah Paige Hannah. This was sent to me, where she is going to just introduce herself. So this is 22 minutes long, and parts of it were unremarkable to me. If anybody's watched this already, let me know in the chat, like, if, to me it was okay. There wasn't anything like, I don't know, like, there wasn't some huge revelation. Paige Hannah, thank you. I keep saying it wrong. I don't know why I keep wanting Hannah to be the first name. Her name is Paige. It just keeps um yeah, yeah. And so but I wanted to talk about it. So let's go on ahead and start here, and I'm going to skip through a little bit.
Hi, my name's Paige Hannah. I'm married to Jodi Hannah. I have 8 kids. I live in Utah, and I am a former colleague to Jodi Hildebrandt and former friend and business partner to Ruby Franke. This video has been a long time coming.
And she's going to go in and talk about the fact that she isn't monetizing this video. Okay. And that she like, and so we'll watch it and talk about it. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. All right.
She was already that controlled.
Okay, I'm going to go back a little bit. Okay.
Questions, you can email that address. Those will be screened before getting to me. So save your energy in posting negative, because I won't read them, but I genuinely will help answer anything that people are wondering. This isn't going to be easy. This isn't something that I take any joy in sharing. It's been really difficult the last 6 months understanding what those Franke children have been through, especially with the knowledge that I tried to warn Ruby, and she not only didn't listen, but told me that I was lying. And it has been very painful understanding that she was already that controlled by Jody. In order for you to understand the later things that took place, Jody did in fact stay at my home for 6 weeks. I need to start at the beginning with where I was introduced to Connexions and some of the very basic teachings that I received, because those teachings that were good at the beginning were what I was able to utilize, and my husband, to recognize how sick she was. I also have the understanding that even when I was taking a class from her, which is initially how I met her, she had already been abusive to Jodi Hildebrandt. So in the past, I may have said that, oh, she became a dark person. I recognize she was a dark person from the beginning, and can see how it was masked and how she utilized good things to then bring in this control that she wielded. In 2017, I had just given birth to my 6th child, who was a girl. I had had 5 boys previously, and this girl, while I was so excited to have this girl, I was terrified of being a mother to a daughter, and just was finally at a point where I really wanted to understand myself better to be a better parent. I had a nanny, a dear friend, who had been helping me for years and had seen Jody as a therapist for a period of her life, a short period, and had some forms and worksheets from her time in therapy, and brought them to me, and they were good. They were very basic teachings of how to know if you've gone into drama and how to get yourself out of it, how to recognize your motive and not go into shame, or just really basic. I don't know that they were Jody's teachings or just therapy in general, but that put Jody on the radar. So then a year later, when I heard she was doing a parenting class, I thought it was a good idea. This parenting class was a 6-week or 8-week course, taught once a week for 2 hours. There were there were a few couples in there. There were some different men and women, and it was a typical class. We came in. She had a presentation. She would teach some principles, and we'd ask questions, and then we'd be on our way. As I sat in the class, there were so many things that were good. And I know nobody wants to be educated in Connections. A Connections bomb went off for me 3 years ago, and I haven't touched it. I didn't even sit in the rubble. I wanted out. I had eradicated the vocabulary. I just wiped the slate and went the other direction. And for the purpose of you understanding what will then take place, there's some principles I want you to understand. The very, very basic one was there was an arrow coming down pointing this way and an arrow coming down pointing this way, and it was peace. Peace feels like serenity and calm and confident and at rest, and this state that everybody would like to be in. You feel enough, you feel worthy, you feel loved. And then on this side was pain. And in a state of pain, you feel insecure, unworthy, unloved, anxious, depressed, stressed. And the whole process was that if you can look at your thoughts, you can trace when you moved from that place of peace over into a place of pain. Ultimately, she shifted that into when you can trace your thoughts and your feelings, then you will know if you are in truth or if you've moved into a place of distortion. And yes, I want to gag every time I use those two words, because she completely destroyed the word truth, and distortion makes me want to vomit. So I'm just going to refer to them as pain and peace. But I want you to understand that's where the initial, they're in distortion came from. Because to accuse a child of being in distortion, well, then you should be able to have the compassion and empathy to recognize, well, they're in a state of pain. And instead of saying, well, they're not in truth, then it's, oh, well, they're not in peace. And how can I, as a parent, help them to get into a state of peace if I can recognize that they're in pain? And so I took to that pain and peace teaching very quickly, because I thought, what a gift. What a gift. If I can recognize my child's hurting, then I can see they're in pain, and I can help them through compassion and kindness and charity, help them come over into a place of peace. That's why the parents were there. That was the parenting class. Another teaching was adulation and denigration, a state of feeling better than or a state of feeling less than. And if you are feeling like you're better than other people, then somewhere deep inside you must have fear that you're not enough. And if you feel less than other people, well, then you have fear that you're not enough. And they're both on the same lever. It's just which one are you in, and how do you get to the fulcrum of I'm enough. I'm just enough. I'm not better than less than. I'm just enough who I am. So when I heard that, I thought, well, this is great. I can tell every time I go into feeling less than, and that was something I brought to my kids. I thought, this is amazing. When you're at school, if you can feel that you've gone into this state, like, oh, then you're in pain, and what are the stories you're telling yourself, or what experience happened that was really hard that you can talk to me about, and I can show you love and kindness around. so I saw this material initially as being this very basic, simple way to become a better person, a more kind, patient, loving person. It slowed down behavior enough so you could recognize the thought before the action, and that was a good space. It was a good thing I needed, as a younger mom with 6 little kids. My oldest at the time, I think, was 8. So 6 kids under 8. I just wanted to be more in peace. So pain and peace was the gauge. And then everything else, all of these principles of truth, were these supplements to help you recognize when you've moved from peace over into pain. I'm trying to remember what. Drama was one of them, like I mentioned. Love and lust also makes me want to gag. She's had a bunch of these, right? They were one right after the other. And so when you understood those, you would be able to see, like, oh, well, I'm not in a state of love. I'm in a state of lust. And so I'm in the place of pain or distortion. And then I need to get over into peace or truth. So she was training me on how to recognize my own behaviors, right? That's ultimately what was happening. And because of that teaching, I started recognizing the behaviors of my children. And I could see when they were hurting, and I could see when they were feeling like they weren't enough, or insecurity was coming in, and different things. And then how this manifested in marriage was, I started recognizing when I was off, and Johnny started recognizing when he was off. And then we would communicate and have these conversations of recognizing, oh, well, it was when this is what I misunderstood, and when I thought that, this is where I went. And then, okay, this is what I heard, and this is why I went there. And so overall, it just increased the ability to communicate within my household, and I was grateful for it. So that's 2017. That's 2018. I'm here in 2024, having completely separated myself from any of those teachings, from anything, because what I recognized the problem became early on was I found something good, but then that good thing became my God. And in the process of that, I recognize how easy that is. It doesn't take somebody with a low IQ to be manipulated by, let's just say, a cult leader. It just takes the desire to become a better person and somebody to come and manipulate it. So whether you just want the approval of a boss or a pastor or a friend that you think is better than you, or you perceive as on a pedestal, you are in danger of dropping your own character and integrity to appease that other person. And that's what Jodi was masterful at, that I can see from my 2024 perspective. But my 2018 perspective was very naive and just, this is so good. This is so helpful. I have some tools that will help my family. And oh, look, it is helping my family. So I think it could help your family too.
All right. So that was the main part that I wanted to share. And not surprised that she said the word cult, or that she talked about a cult leader, because in my opinion, the way that Jodi would isolate people that she then wanted to control or manipulate. So I think this is also a good example of how two people can hear the exact same thing and get two very different things out of it. So that's why I don't get too upset when people misunderstand something that I say on social media, because I can say it as clearly as I think I can. And somebody might hear something I say and go, oh, Dr. Barry said nobody needs, I don't know. And it's like, wait a minute. No, that wasn't, because sometimes what we hear, sometimes we pick and choose what we hear with what we already kind of think, with what we already kind of want to do. And I think that is what happened with Ruby. That Ruby, when she heard, oh, pain or distortion in peace, oh, my kids are disrupting my peace, they're in pain, I need to get them over to peace. And anytime they're doing something I don't want them to do, anytime that they are not being obedient or they're not being in my opinion, like if they're not being perfect, then they are in this distortion, and it's my job as their parent to get them to peace by any means necessary. And because what Paige Hannah heard was that I can have compassion for my child, that I can do this with kindness and love. And I think what Ruby got from it was, okay, there are these, that it was black or white, it's this or that, and these are the only options. And I don't think she was at peace. She didn't seem happy to me. She didn't come off as happy, like, unless she was like inflicting pain. Like, to me, like like the laugh Ruby would do when she talked about punishing her children, that, like, in my opinion, it seemed like she enjoyed inflicting pain, but I think in her warped thinking, she thought she was bringing them closer to peace. And I think that type of thinking, where anger, or where like these one things are bad, so that, like, if somebody is like, we only have peace or we have pain, and these are the only two states, and not seeing like how much of a spectrum things are, and that there isn't any like one right way, or like people aren't always going to be in peace. Like, people aren't all, and just because I'm not in peace doesn't mean that I am like evil, or that I'm in distortion, that or that I'm necessarily in pain. Like, I think that that way of thinking was, or that way of teaching it, especially from a licensed therapist. And that's where I don't know if Jody had professional liability insurance. And I'm sure her liability insurance is probably like trying to stay real hush hush. So normally a medical doctor, a medical professional would have, or even a business would have insurance for that. If they were ever sued, that they paid this insurance that would come and like defend them, or like they normally provided a lawyer, because the claim normally comes from the, like, it's paid by the agency, depending on if it's within a certain range. And I would not be surprised, because I wouldn't even consider what she was doing therapy. Like not to me. I think it was Adam Steele. He talked about Connections being this multi-level marketing program, where Jody's kind of at the top, and then she has these coaches under her, because some people in Connections were coached by a coach, or like it was just like, it was coaching. It wasn't, they weren't meeting with Jody, or they would meet with Jody once a week or every other week, and then they would meet with their coach regularly. And I think some of the pay went to the coach, and the more coaching clients you had, thank you, yes, the more coaching clients that you had, um, the more money, I think. Or but then sometimes the coach might have coaches under them, which, oh, like that's and that's where I think, because I think they were considering it coaching, and a lot of her reimbursement was coming from either individual people paying, or it was coming from the church. I don't know if that's why I think they're going after her personally. She probably does not have liability insurance. Yes. And so we had to have malpractice insurance, and I do accept insurance, and so because of that, I do have to have liability insurance. It's just something that we have to do. Um, I thought it was interesting that Paige Hannah talked about the fact that sometimes you think that I guess smart people won't be in cults, but actually, I think somebody with higher intelligence, they might overestimate their intelligence or their ability to be deceived or manipulated. So a person's gullibility or their ability to be deceived or manipulated, I don't know that there's like this connection with intelligence. And somebody that is very intelligent can have a chance to be manipulated or controlled. Also, somebody that might have lower traditional intelligence. We're talking about like an IQ score. So that intelligence doesn't mean that a person isn't susceptible to being exploited. People can be exploited. And so, oh yeah, so I make sure to this is the one I wanted. I make sure to keep all of that active. Yes, anyone can get sucked into a cult. Ooh, that can bring me to how to evaluate information. A friend of mine made a great post about how to assess whether something is accurate or not. Evaluating your sources. Let me see. She did this for her students. Let me share my screen. Let's share this one. And then I need to make myself small. There we go. All right. I'm going to try to make this bigger. All right. Evaluating sources of information. Suppose the school principal, the principal of the school said, "This is the best school in the entire state." How would you determine whether this statement is accurate? Using the questions below will help you analyze both primary and secondary sources, like the quote above. Who said it? Who wrote it? Under what conditions was the statement made? Because maybe it's at graduation or something. When and where versus being said to like the school board, or to Congress or something. Is the speaker or writer an objective or reliable source? Why is the statement being made? What is the purpose? Was there a particular motivation behind the statement? Was the speaker asking alumni to donate or something? Does the speaker or writer have a particular bias that would serve as motivation? What definitions are necessary to evaluate the source? In what ways is the statement accurate or inaccurate? And can the statement be supported or refuted by actual evidence? And so a friend of mine made this for her high school students. If this would be helpful to post in, because she gave people permission to share it. It's Dr. Rochelle Joe. And she has her, I think Dr. Joe, she has her doctorate in counselor education. She's a professor down in, I want to say, Florida. And this was something that she found from when she used to work with high school students. And so critical thinking, like people think it's automatic, and it's not. And evaluating sources, evaluating what is accurate or true. And I do think that we will continue to have to evaluate sources of information. I try my best to when I am sharing information. So that's why sometimes I don't speak publicly on some things until we've dug a little bit deeper. I am going to be releasing a video on Saturday. So Saturday, I am not going to be able to go live. My niece is having a birthday party, and so we are going to go to that. But I will have a video that comes out. It is a very sad, very tragic case out of Ohio. I can give you all a sneak peek at what we will be talking about, because it is Pammy May out of Ohio. And she is accused of a horrific crime. Um, and I am going to be going into that on and there are allegations that she has bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. And so this is going to be like another case that I'm just going to be watching and following as things come. So this video will come out on Saturday. And I truly appreciate everyone that's watching. If you haven't liked the video, please, it really does help the algorithm. It really does. If you could like the video, if you enjoy this content, if you could subscribe, if you would like to see more content just like this. I truly appreciate you all. And I will make sure to post that probably Sunday, because I have something I want to share tomorrow. So I have something else that I'll share in the community tab tomorrow. And then I'll share that critical thinking ways to evaluate a statement. I will share that probably on Sunday. All right. So always make sure to check out the community tab. I share resources and tools there, and to sometimes give you all a little break from the crime stuff, from the legal aspects that we cover. Thank you to the person that sent me this video. If you have a case that you would like for me to cover, you can always leave it in the comments, or you can email me at info@drpatriceberry.com. I think my email is in the YouTube section, and or you can DM me on Instagram. I don't reply to DMs, but I do see the DMs that I get there. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day.